Welcome to this explainer. Look, today we're going to completely flip the script on where your daily overwhelm actually comes from. I mean, think about your average day for a second. The overflowing inbox, the gridlocked traffic, that looming project deadline. We tend to view these external things as literal, heavy weights, just constantly pressing down on us. But what if I told you the weight you're feeling right now isn't actually coming from the outside world at all? Over the next few minutes, we're diving deep into the science of cognitive reframing and stress management. And by the end of this explainer, I guarantee the way you view a stressful day is going to fundamentally change. Okay, let's jump right in by asking a fundamental question. And this is one that directly challenges a universal myth we all seem to buy into. Is your life actually stressful, or is it just your perception? We are so conditioned to believe that situations themselves cause our anxiety, right? We say things like, ugh, my job is stressful, or that meeting was so stressful. But the groundbreaking research we're looking at today, it suggests we've basically had the equation backward this whole time. So to figure this out, we need to look at section 1, the stress perception problem. Now, technically speaking, no situation is inherently stressful in its own right. Stop and really think about that for a second. A tight deadline, it's literally just a date on a calendar. A massive thunderstorm is just atmospheric pressure and water droplets. A public speaking gig is just you standing in a room with other humans. The events themselves are entirely neutral. It's solely our interpretation of the situation that drives the level of stress we feel. Think of a roller coaster, okay? One person is screaming in absolute terror, while the person right next to them is screaming in pure joy. The track is exactly the same, the speed is exactly the same. The only difference is the internal narrative.
Which brings us to section 2, how we judge threats.
In his foundational book on the psychology of stress, researcher Richard S. Lazarus gives us this brilliant clinical breakdown. He defines stress as something that occurs when someone thinks that demands exceed the personal and social resources they are able to mobilize. I absolutely love this definition because it shows that stress is basically just a terrifying internal math problem. On one side of the equation, you've got the demands of the situation. And on the other side, you have your resources, your time, your energy, your skills, your support network. When your brain calculates that the demands are greater than your resources, boom, an alarm bell rings. And that alarm bell is exactly what we call stress. So the crucial point here is that becoming stressed requires us to make two specific sequential judgments in our minds. Step 1, we have to actually feel threatened by the situation. We have to decide, hey, this event has the potential to cause me damage. Step 2, we have to judge whether our capabilities and resources are sufficient to meet that threat. Notice the key words here, feel and judge. How stressed you are depends entirely on how much damage you imagine the situation can cause and how poorly you rate your own ability to handle it. You are literally the judge and the jury in your own mental courtroom.
All right, let's look at section 3, real danger versus self-sabotage.
Now, to be fair, sometimes our interpretation is completely accurate. Some situations genuinely are dangerous. In those cases, that stress acts as a necessary evolutionary early warning system. It's alerting us to a real danger to our bodies, our social standing, or our careers. Like if you're walking too close to a cliff edge or you're about to make a massive unfixable error on a major corporate account, you absolutely want that spike of stress. It sharpens your focus, it floods your body with adrenaline, and it prepares you to act. In those moments, your internal math is spot on, and that stress is doing exactly what it's supposed to do, keeping you safe. But, and this is a massive but, we very often get the math wildly wrong, and this perfectly illustrates our tendency towards self-sabotage. Look at the difference here. On one side, we treat a friend or a team member with totally fair, reasonable encouragement when they face a challenge, right? We tell them, hey, you've got this, you have the skills, it's just a small bump in the road. But on the other side, when we judge ourselves, we are frequently overly harsh and incredibly unjust. We evaluate our own resources in this highly critical way, basically convincing ourselves we aren't smart enough, fast enough, or strong enough to meet the demand. We apply this ruthless double standard that pretty much guarantees our internal stress equation is going to tilt toward overwhelm. By jumping to these wrong conclusions about people's motives, like, I don't know, assuming your boss hates you just because they didn't smile in the hallway, or wildly underestimating our own capabilities, we're basically manually triggering a false alarm in our nervous system. And this kind of negative thinking causes intense stress and profound unhappiness. But honestly, even worse than that, over time, living in this constant state of false alarm severely undermines your self-confidence. You actually begin to believe the flawed math your brain keeps feeding you. So how do we fix the math? Let's get into section 4, tools to reframe stress.
The good news is, by deploying 3 simple, highly effective cognitive tools, we can completely recalibrate our internal judgments. First up, thought awareness. This is basically just the act of catching yourself in the moment. When you feel your heart start racing, you just pause and say, okay, my brain is doing that flawed math thing again. Second, rational thinking. This is where you play detective. You look at the demands on your resources objectively, and you ask, is this actually a disaster, or am I just assuming it is? And finally, positive thinking. Now, this isn't that toxic positivity where you just ignore your problems. It's deliberately focusing your mind on your proven capabilities and past successes, so you can accurately measure your resources. Together, these 3 tools fix the equation. But before we wrap this up, we need to cover Section 5, a crucial health warning.
Because left unchecked, chronic stress can lead to severe health problems, and in extreme cases, even death. Your body is just not designed to have that early warning alarm ringing 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Now, while the cognitive reframing techniques we've talked about today are incredibly powerful, they are for guidance. If you're ever concerned about stress-related physical illnesses, or if you're experiencing significant, persistent unhappiness that you just can't seem to shake, it is absolutely vital to consult qualified health professionals. Please don't try to just reframe your way out of a clinical health crisis. So let's bring it all together. The very next time your internal alarm bell starts ringing and you feel that familiar wave of panic washing over you, I want you to pause, look at the situation objectively, and ask yourself this: are you facing a true threat or just a flawed perception? Have the demands actually exceeded your resources, or is your inner critic just really bad at math? By taking control of your perception, you take control of your stress, and ultimately, you take control of your life. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer. Now, get out there and reframe your day.